Welcome to the Knights of the Round Table. This week we are going to be discussing some of the problems that face film and broadcasting as a course on a whole. So let's get started, shall we? Alright guys. Well, topic number one is the underpowered and old computers. So what do we have to say about that?
They're shit.
That's a pretty good
That's a
start.
good place to
Yeah,
start.
It's a pretty good place to start. I mean, they probably wouldn't have been shit a few years ago when they were made, i.e. 2008, 2012.
It's more than a few years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the computers that we're using are literally 10 years old.
The interesting thing to me is that if you expect such high quality like exports from your students, why don't you give them the equipment with which to do that easier?
Yeah.
Like the lag is absolutely insane when you're trying to edit. They just can't handle the footage that's being put into them. It's properly mad.
Like if they want to advertise film broadcasting as a course, they want to show our output as being the best of the best. They want the best students to come here. If we have shitty computers and we can't put out the good quality stuff they want, well then they're only fucking themselves over.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the problem is that because we need so much funding as a course, they can't just, put all of the money into, they can't put an adequate enough amount of money into the computers to fully redo the whole setup.
Yeah.
So, somewhere where there isn't a massive amount of funding needed elsewhere, say journalism, or somewhere else where they can put all of their money into the computers. You have computers like they have, which were made maybe 4
All
years
they need
ago.
is Microsoft Word though.
Yeah. But there is an argument to be made that the funding should be divided, if not equally,
Or proportionate
to the actual equipment requirements
Yeah.
of each course, because the journalists don't really need anything other than I guess
Microsoft Word
Google
and Google.
and Microsoft Word and maybe PowerPoint.
Yeah, which, PowerPoint, Google specifically, you need a little bit more RAM than usual, but you don't need the computers they have with graphics cards and high-speed processors, which would be invaluable to us, especially if we're, doing anything with a green screen or if we're doing anything with a less compressed format than, what our current cameras can shoot on. You could use a computer from 2008 to do pretty much anything you want to do in journalism, whereas trying to use a modern day resolution like 2K or sometimes even 4K on a computer that's 10
Got
years
2
old.
gigs of RAM, maybe.
Yeah,
The
I think they have 4, and then the ones. Or they have either 4 or 8, and then the ones we use for audio have 8.
I think they only have 4.
They have
If
4.
memory serves, they have
4
4.
and
Jesus
i3
Christ.
dual core processor.
Okay.
The problem I have is
There are
that
phones that are faster than that.
this is where it gets interesting, is that the PCs that we had previous were made later in 2012. They are 2012 Mac Pros, and the minimum specs for that is a quad core, and I'm pretty sure we have a 6 core in there somewhere. And we have the minimum requirements in the PCs that they took out. The problem was it was a lazy solution to a big problem. We got older computers in to replace the slow ones, but really we were just given worse computers with half the recommended specs of 2018 Premiere Pro, and the minimum requirements to run that software is double that what's inside those 2008 Macs.
In terms of RAM, not
Everything.
Really?
Processors, RAM, and the graphics card.
Yeah.
The holy trinity of that what you need to run any sort of rendering software
Yeah.
in 2018.
And in fairness, it would be different if you could just edit on any computer in the building, but you can't. Not every computer has Adobe, the whole software package, and the actual level of the software. We've got CC, I think 2017 or 2018 in 3027, and then if you
It's the
move,
latest version,
but if you move to the editing room outside of here, it's 2016. So you can't actually move your data between each one.
Yeah, and I mean, a large part of the problem is there is a massive amount of man hours that would need to be put into these computers to get them up to the current standards that either DIT doesn't have or won't put towards it. I think it would probably be helpful for us to do it.
There is a very straightforward
instead.
solution to this, and it's going to sound ridiculous, but like those old PCs that were taken out, that are just sitting in the back of the room now, are still usable today. They just need new hard drives.
Yeah.
They just need new. They're
I mean,
only
we-
running slow because they're running off old hard drives.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've experimented this on my own with scrapyard builds, and if you just put an SSD in a 10-year-old computer, it will run like new. It's not a problem with the current hardware that's in there. It was just the operating system that it was running off was
Yeah. Well, I
slowing
mean,
down because it's a mechanical part.
a
like-
pretty big problem with those is also the fact that they are running on such old software when software updates are free.
yeah.
So I
Mac
mean,
OS wasn't even
Ma-
updated on the 2012 PCs.
yeah, exactly. So we're running off some old form. I mean, obviously, there have been about 3 iterations of the Mac OS since
Yeah.
some of those computers were updated,
Yeah.
which is a pretty big problem. But also, I mean, swapping the journalism's computers for ours, I don't think would be met with a particularly large amount of criticism from the journalists. I mean, unless they're using it as a render engine on the weekends for their side projects, I don't think they'd even notice.
No, I think the most like computer-powered thing that they are doing is the like creation of the newspaper, and that's as far as it goes. As far as I know, now, obviously it can't speak for journos, but from what I've seen them doing in there,
Yeah.
that's as deep as
And
it
even
goes.
in that sense, it's not fair to completely neglect film and broadcasting altogether with hand-me-down PCs that aren't even viable in today's
Yeah.
world. Like,
If you
quite
even look
shame.
at like what they've put all this cash into games design, and like, no offense to games design, but it is a new degree. It's a new course. They don't know what's going to happen with those graduates. They don't know how that's going to pan out in the long run.
Well,
But
I mean,
like
Ireland has a pretty high sort of
employment,
like the video game engineers that come from Ireland are generally speaking highly regarded, but
but so are the students who come out of film and broadcasting, DIT.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the thing is, they're running off their own computers anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why do they need to use the ones in the college if
Well,
they have
well,
their
they
own?
don't.
They
have-
spread
they
them
have
everywhere enough.
It's the problem is, it's like we're doing that too, and that's an even bigger cost to us. For them, they just need, say, a really powerful computer. That's fine. We need a really powerful computer and camera equipment
and
with the
software.
current and
Yeah.
software with the current
I mean, they
state
need
of
software
things
as
right
well,
now.
yeah,
It's just not.
I think-
it's not financially viable. Like,
yeah. Like our cost for hardware that stems like it extends far beyond what their costs for hardware would be. I mean, we're still shooting on 5D Mark IIIs. Not only are they not a video camera, but they're not even the latest iteration of
Themselves,
their
yeah.
non-video camera.
well, the modern equivalent of that today would be the A7S II or 3.
Yeah. I mean, I am sure that if they were to go back, like at this stage and repurchase the like a new set of 3 cameras, they probably would go for the Sonys, but that they obviously didn't exist when they were buying the Mark IIIs.
I feel like what we're really talking about here is the money question.
Yeah.
We can bandy this stuff back and forth all we want, but in reality, the funding just isn't there, and it hasn't been since, I would say, 2008, 2009, since the crash, since everything kind of fell into just hell on earth. I fully sympathize with the situation that we've kind of been left in, because this is an expensive degree to do. It's an expensive business to get into, and if the money isn't coming into the bank, how are we supposed to spend it? Like, we all have wish lists and dreams and things that we wish we could just fix. Even things that seem like easy fixes, our hands are kind of tied in a sense, and that's not something that we can really blame the college for. That's something that has to be taken up on a local level with TDs and on a national level in the Dáil,
Yeah.
you know?
But like, there is a money problem, definitely, in terms of like just the existence of money in their accounts to give to people. But I think a large problem with it is also misappropriation of that money. Like when Radio Soccer being given allegedly 50 to
Supposedly.
60,000 euro for a new radio studio, and we can't afford a camera that can deliver professional level training to, like not even one of them,
Yeah.
to our fourth year graduates who nowadays use most of their own cameras, or an A7S II, which with a really nice image does not prepare you for using professional cameras. There seems to be a disconnect between how much funding we get for the sort of necessary things for training versus what the societies get.
What the societies
as
are
leisure.
told we're getting.
Yeah. And
We've been told we were getting 50, 60 grand to fit out the Radio Society. We've yet to see any of that. The Society's office have done nothing to
and
help us.
to be fair, societies and their budgets are a completely
Are
yeah,
entirely
separate
funded
separate.
issue.
completely
Yeah,
differently.
they
Like it's a
definitely
different system entirely, and like I know it's very frustrating because like even with the Film Society, there is an abundance of equipment that just cannot be taken and used by fab students, which I know it doesn't make much
There's a
sense,
delicate
but
line
there's
there.
it's a
Very delicate.
it's a bureaucratic nightmare to be
Mm.
honest. And I like
You pick a side, you use one or the other.
yeah, you can't there can be no crossover, which seems strange to me, but
It's inefficient.
And
It's-
what would there be any steps that the Film Soc and Fab could take to?
No, they have
sort
to
of
go
improve
about it
that
on
situation?
their own.
It's all
the way
insurance.
it's looking.
Why-
to get
why
me,
is-
it's-
What is the fundamental reason behind us not being able to take equipment out from Film Soc?
see, that's an answer I don't.
I feel like
have,
there's
it's
a couple of reasons. Like one that I can think of just off the bat is that there would be disparities in the equipment level given to different groups for their projects. So say you ask for the Blackmagic Pocket Cine camera from FilmSoc and they give it to you. But the next shoot, it's not available. Yours is just 10,000 times more professional and someone else doesn't get the same opportunities, yet you're being graded on the same plane. Inequality there, it's not gonna fly particularly well. It's already a problem, like because obviously people have their own cameras that are better and stuff, and they can bring them in and use them on their own shoots. Like the disparity between wealthy students who can afford to like get good stuff and poor students who can't, it already exists, and I feel like we would just be exacerbating the issue because if we are relying on Film Society to give us the equipment every time we need to shoot, it might as well be fab equipment, you know?
Yeah,
There'll
but
be
it doesn't reflect
degradation.
I think
well on
that-
the course either that we're taking equipment from somewhere else. Like,
Well, I mean, the film has always been, get what you can,
yeah,
sort of finesse it until you have what you want. I think that sort of disparity and saying that people are graded differently if they have that doesn't give enough credit to the fact that the lecturers know what things are being shot on and the equipment that was available. Like we just watched a film where they didn't have an ND filter, so they had to shoot at f16, which means you get an uglier image than if you had been able to open up that aperture. And that's a consideration that, while they could have gotten around it in some certain ways by possibly bringing their own NDs and stuff like that. I think that you have to give credit to the lecturer in knowing the level of equipment and to what extent they got the best from that equipment. I think that's what you're graded on, not the actual.
it's leading us to drastic measures
final
where we're
product.
funding ourselves for equipment, like what the third years.
They all put together about 400 quid to buy themselves a gimbal,
gimbal,
which
yeah.
is great if you can do it. But it's a stopgap and it's not going to fix the problem.
And what do you
Yeah.
do after that? Who takes the gimbal? Like it kind of leaves it in a kind
I
of
think
in
they,
a
they've
balance.
sort of
Yeah.
decided that they may leave it with the college afterwards, like
Yeah,
after they leave.
Students shouldn't be providing the equipment, though. I know it's obviously
Yeah,
good of
absolutely.
them to
I
do,
know,
but
but
it
I
just
mean-
comes
Stupid
back
that
to
we
like
have to pay
the
for it.
well,
same
like when
problem.
you say
Yes,
students
yeah.
shouldn't be providing that, I mean, look, there's no denying that since 2008, money's been a little bit tight in the country, and every single time that they try to raise funds for that, whether it be through, getting student loans into place, people protest it. So I don't think you can say, oh, students shouldn't be funding this, or they shouldn't be doing this. Like this, we are invested creatively in what we do.
Yes.
And while, yes, there is a massive disparity between, some people can invest a lot more and feel none of the effects, or some people have to invest a smaller amount and feel the effects of that significantly more. Saying that students shouldn't fund their own things is kind of
we're shooting
dangerous.
ourselves in
Fund
the
to a
foot doing
degree,
that.
like, put it
Well, I
in
mean,
cer-
they all pooled together and got that for their year.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's necessarily a problem, especially if they
No,
leave it
it's-
with
But
the...
if it's just that, how desperate it's going to get, like.
Well, it's a temporary solution to an ongoing problem.
But if we're
The-
not,
the
like, we
problem
don't have
is
any funding
systemic.
at the moment, and we're not going to get any anytime soon.
No.
So 5 years down the line, when we've still got no
I
more
mean,
funding
well,
and no more new
we don't know
equipment-
that we're not going to get funding down the line. That's the thing.
And we don't have literally no money. I
Well-
just think that we don't have enough money to properly...
Address the issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, apparently, the growth of GDP in Ireland in 2017 was about 7.5%. We're not feeling that on the ground yet.
Give it a couple give it a
Yeah,
couple
but you
years.
know, give it a couple of years. And
Yeah.
like, these are issues that if we raise them now, they might not be fixed for us, but they might be fixed for other people. And like, at the end of the day, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather the year below us get the better end of things. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather fight for that. You know, because like right now we're making do what we have. We're
Yeah,
pooling
I mean,
money
we
together. We're
we
getting
have
our
an
own
A6300. We're looking at sort of trying to finesse it, but
Yeah, we're building a collection of lenses and stuff on our own on the side. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's all we can do.
but I mean, there are certainly people who can't do that.
Yeah.
Like Suzanne said, and I
Yeah.
think it is. It does
Like
fall under,
Suzanne, personally.
I think a lot of it like you have to rely on the lecturers to be able to understand what was possible using the equipment that they were able to ascertain. So yeah,
But I guess, like, we can say all we want, but we don't actually know how things are going to be in a few years. Because the move to Grange Gorman,
yeah.
What move?
who is that?
What's
Yeah.
Grange, what's Grange
Nothing.
Gorman?
We
I
were
know,
promising
I
nothing.
know. They
Fourth
did,
year
It's a
what?
bag of lies.
yeah,
That's where all the money went.
that's, yeah,
Ah.
that's the thing.
Well, they
That,
Black
don't. They
hole.
only have half a campus. So how does that work?
apparently, it's like a lot of, the government has given and is giving a lot of money for Grange
We
Gorman
do
to
have a
be
Lewis
developed.
stop though. That's not actually at the college, which is a really big positive.
There's one that goes through. It's the one after that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but why is the DIT one not even at the college?
Yeah, it's just stupid, like city planning.
Just me.
But you know, like, moving is possible, and we don't know however many years down the line. 2 years down the line, is it 2020? It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
2 years down the line, what is Grange Gorman going to look like? What will it just be an empty shell with all of this same trouble inside, or will we
Yeah.
be looking at state-of-the-art equipment? Not us. We won't be looking
I
at
don't
anything.
think-
We'll be looking
No.
at the door.
Yeah.
And a
But
coffee shop where we'll get our first job.
yeah,
Yeah.
Starbucks, the dream.
Maybe a restaurant if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Just keeps
Well,
up, yeah.
look, I think that we haven't seen state of the art equipment since 19 fucking.
I mean, we're looking at
insert.
state-of-the-art equipment from 100 years ago.
Yeah, like the film camera was probably pretty close to state of the art when it.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure,
I mean,
for sure.
But state of the art now is changing so quickly.
Yes.
It's hard to keep
I
up,
think that
like,
Yeah.
like
actually,
you
yeah.
can't really call something state of the art unless you're looking at a fucking Alexa, fucking 65T or something.
I feel like unless you're sitting in the development offices
of
of
Ari,
Ari, yeah.
But I think there's also a massive difference between consumer and professional, and we're sitting way too close to consumer
We're
at
in
the
consumer
moment.
right now. We are in it. Like, I
Well,
mean,
we're
apart
not
from our
we're not
lighting
sitting in it. I mean, we have some pretty great lighting equipment, some sound equipment that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of cameras and what we would be using, like as far as I know, A7S2 doesn't even allow you to use a waveform or apply a LUT and record at a different gamut. So
We're losing out somehow. Like, but
yeah, there's a massive disparity between where we need to be to get the baseline of professional technical education and where we are, but I think we're certainly making do with what we have, but that gap's only going to grow.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, it's not like great things haven't come out of DIT, because they have. Like, I feel like we are the kings and queens of big stuff on a budget.
Yeah.
You know, like, the things that we do make, that we put our time and effort and blood and sweat and tears,
And
mostly
money.
tears and money into, we do have a lot to show for it. The only issue is that it could be so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
potential, and we're just not given the opportunity to.
Yeah, like we certainly have enthusiastic enough lecturers to get us to the sort of idealistic stage where we get to the sort of ambitious level where we want something to look a very certain way, or we want something to be on a certain scale, and we're pretty good at getting close enough to that scale with what we're given. But obviously, I mean, it would be great if we could edit that a little bit faster,
Just a touch.
just a touch,
Like
or
just
maybe
into the
get
home screen.
get
that
some-
would be nice,
get some
Yeah.
1080p
Photos.
footage that doesn't cause your computer to crash, or you know, shoot it on a better camera. I think the main equipment level that we're at is we need more advanced cameras and we need more advanced computers. But the computers one certainly seems far more solvable by just giving us the better computers that exist in the college and aren't being used to their fullest extent.
Yeah, I'm talking about the future. Like they're planning mergers for different departments in the course in the coming years. Namely, third years mentioning that between drama and documentary, and the lack of numbers going into the other departments.
Yeah.
My-
Well, look, it sucks for those lecturers who really, really avidly enjoy documentary or really want to teach it and they're enthusiastic about it. But you cannot force someone into a specializing in something they like that they don't have an interest in, while another group of people in their year get to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean that's
especially
just
if you
so
do it by
second level.
grades.
That's so
Yeah.
secondary
Es-
school. You know, like it's very.
Well, it's
Oh, you can't
it's
do
even-
English because
it's-
you didn't get the grade or something. You know.
To me, a grade doesn't necessarily dictate ability in like
especially
Well,
in
the-
such a creative format.
exactly.
Yeah.
Will these grades be strictly from our production classes? If so, how do you know if anyone will actually suit documentary? Because we've never done
And also,
documentary
what
Yeah,
comes
and
out in the
certain
final
people
edit
haven't gotten the
is
jobs
very
that they
different.
want and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Like you can't actually take those grades
Sorry,
at face
Henry.
value.
Yeah, what I was saying is, if like from the final edit, you can't tell what happened on set. Someone could have done something terribly. Someone could have saved someone else's ass. Like what comes in the final edit or what they're grading off of might not have any reflection on how someone did.
And yeah, you could end up with an entire class filled with DOPs, or an entire class filled with camera people, or an entire class filled up by grade is never going to work.
Even from the
Yeah.
other side, so there'd be drama and then there'd be broadcasting, which would be TV, radio, and documentary.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky, but on that side, what about the people, like for me personally, who wants to do radio? Then that's my year and a half of specializing in radio that I've been waiting for is now being diluted down. I get to do 1/3 of the amount of modules. So as much as it's bad for the people who want to do drama and don't get that, on the other side, it's diluting everything down for
Yeah,
everyone
and
else.
in
And
fairness,
it's also
so it's
forcing
not
people who don't want to do your course to
Yeah.
work with you, and they won't
Don't care.
They won't have
Yeah.
the same enthusiastic
Yeah,
level that you
that's
would
like
be
I
at.
Production value just
enjoy
drops. Like,
documentary,
yeah.
I enjoy
Passion's
TV,
gone
but
and
it's
it's
not
not
what I'm
creative.
here for.
But the other thing is that they're making it seem like these are the underclass
Yeah.
of specializations to go into, when that shouldn't be the case at all. If anything, they should be hyping up these other courses.
Yeah,
Like they should be
like
hyping up
sell
radio.
doc,
Yeah.
sell
Well, they
radio
did
more.
actually try to sell us doc in first year. I think
When?
No,
I missed that class.
Yeah, what is that? Like that's
To
not a sales
whom?
pitch.
Sinead and Stella were always saying, "Oh, like
That's not a
it's-
sales
But they
doc
said
is-
it's easier
doc
to
is
go
the best
into
place."
into
You
drama
look at the
from
course
doc, not
handbook,
the other way
Like
around.
don't get me.
on film and
I love
broadcasting, like-
documentaries. Don't get me wrong. And I would definitely look into in the future making them because I find them so interesting. But I don't know if I would want to put all my eggs in
career.
that basket, put
Yeah.
my professional career on the line, and put myself into documentary when I've had absolute zero experience of doing anything to do with
Or
documentary
even getting
before.
forced in there because you just didn't make the cut. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
it's ridiculous.
I mean, it's a surefire way to get more people to drop out. That's
Oh,
for
Yeah.
sure.
People come into
you
this course
won't
thinking
see
they
me
have-
next year if that happens.
People
like.
come to this course because they think they have 3 choices. They have options. They're not being shoved into a certain direction like they are in other courses.
Yeah.
But if you take that away, then
I mean,
Yeah.
like
what's the point?
there are a fair load of people in film who didn't go to film school.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly fine way to get into film to just make them. And if it seems like a better alternative to just drop out of film school and start making films on your own, that's what people will do. So, like it's not even a thing of like, oh well, I'm dropping out because film isn't for me. It's a thing of I'm dropping out because this particular course wasn't for me, and that's never a good position to be in, because they're not gonna like. Why I came to this course is because I spoke to people who were like, oh, that's a great course to do. That'll get you to the level of education you want to be at. And if people aren't saying that to other people, you're just going to get lower and lower numbers trying to get into this course, and you're going to get fewer and fewer talented people.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. But we'll just have to see what becomes of it, to be honest.
I guess that's all we have time for anyway. So that's Nights at the Round Table.